I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. This week, our own Nick DiVirgilio sits down with our friends from Sugar Percussion to discuss their stave-built drums. Check this out.
How you doing, everybody? Nick DiVirgilio here today, and very special guest in studio with me from Sugar Percussion. Miss Ruby Sugar Price, Jefferson Shallenberger, Jonathan Womble from Sugar Percussion. How you doing, everybody? Welcome to Sweetwater.
Fantastic.
Thanks for coming here. First time, I guess, to the company here in Fort Wayne?
First time to Indiana.
First time to
Can
Indiana?
I say that? Yeah.
Yeah, and so far so good?
It is.
You came at a good time of
This
year.
is
It's
a nice place
outside.
to
The
come
weather's
in.
good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Well, your product is awesome, really beautiful. So let's get into the story of, how'd you start making drums?
So I was a furniture maker for 20 years and a hobby drummer. Hobby is maybe generous. And not a very good packer. So during college, when I was shipping my drum kit around, my old Fibes kit finally disintegrated. And at that point, I had a wood shop and no money to buy a kit. So I cannibalized all the hardware and started building my own shells.
Now, just to stop you right there, did you build kind of traditional shells back then, plywood shells, or did you start with staves right from the beginning?
I started with stave. With the woodworking vocabulary that I had, this made the most sense.
Okay, cool.
Construction-wise.
Yeah.
I wouldn't jack my car up with that first kit that I made, but it was enough to plant a seed, and I knew I would return to it. So I continued with the furniture making, and then eventually returned to make a decent kit, and then that started the company. It was like I wanted to do more of this.
And how many years ago was that?
5.5 years ago. I would call it a real company.
Okay. And you're still building furniture too, right?
I am.
Yeah. Okay.
I am.
Now, how much of each, does it like equal?
Well, I had ideas of it being 50-50. The drums are starting to monopolize the tools. They're getting,
And that's preferable, I imagine, yeah?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been fun. Yeah.
Cool. Now, before we get to the drums, how did you come up with the name? Because I know that's a special story for you.
Well, all funds will go to her future therapy account. This is my daughter, Ruby Sugar, so it seemed appropriate that we name it after her.
And how do you like that? Having your name on drums?
I like it. Actually, well, we used to have, a while ago, I would design some stuff and then he would build it, and that was called the Sugar line.
Right.
So it wasn't the first one.
Chopstick holders, cutting boards and
kind
stuff.
of
She would
random
draw,
stuff.
and then I would build it in the wood shop. So that was the first sugar company. This is the second.
Fantastic. That's a very cool story. Jonathan, you're from Dallas, right? You're a player.
Yes, sir.
And you've lived with these drums a lot, right? So you've played them and gotten to know them quite well, yeah?
Yeah, they've ruined me. I was a vintage guy forever. And, vintage drums are great and they do a certain thing, but as soon as I played these, like the feel and the tone, it's a different animal. It's completely different. So, being on the road, I'm sure like taking out a vintage kit is not super ideal. You're having to fix stuff or find parts or do whatever. And to play a drum that is made by one guy that has its own story and that I can add my own story. I'm not, piggybacking on somebody else's.
Sure.
It's just been fantastic. So I met him, played a couple, built a couple, sold everything else, and
there you go.
Fully bought in, yeah.
He actually we had a mutual friend how we met, and he came to the shop for the first time and stayed for a weekend and got to build a couple snare drums. So he got his very first introduction. He got to see the whole process.
It wasn't really fair.
It wasn't. The hook was set well past the barb, and so he went home and started eBaying all his gear. It was great.
Nice. Yeah. Well, that's a good lead into your drums. Now, you don't just make snare drums. We have a snare drum here, and Sweetwater's selling snare drums right now, but you make full kits and everything like that.
Yeah.
Let's get into the construction, because I've been playing drums for 40 years. The way you build drums, I've seen stave construction in congas and different kind of hand percussion, but not in drum set, so it's pretty unique to my eye, and it's just beautiful. They do sound great. So give us a story of how you, as quickly as you can, I guess, how you...
how much tape you got on that.
Right, how you build these drums.
I mean, essentially, the reason why I built them this way was that it was the best way to let the wood be wood.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do is exploit all the innate nuance that one species will have different from another species.
Right.
So with this construction, and we mill all the staves and roll them up, this circle, when it's glued up, it's a circle at rest. It's calm. So I've milled out all the tension. It wants to stay a circle. That way the wood gets to act like it naturally acts. Okay. A soft wood will be warm and kind of thuddy, and a hard wood will be really bright and percussive, and then there are ones in the middle that sort of dabble in both.
Okay.
But if you think of plywood drums, you have a soft wood and a hard wood. They're different, but the nuance is close together. The range is tight, and what we've done is sort of expand that range. So where the soft is wildly different from the hard, and there are many more steps along the way.
Right.
So.
I was looking at your website, and you do rank each species of wood do you?
We have a density scale,
Right.
and each drum fits at a certain place, and so it's sort of like a quick, efficient reference as to where it's going to be.
Yes, if you have a sound in your head, you can kind of go right for
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah.
very cool. Now, this shell you have here kind of shows the process of where it goes from stave to actual shell, yeah?
Yeah, this is all the processes. We have the glued up. This is this glued up, and it's still faceted. Then it goes on the lathe, and it becomes a perfect circle.
Right.
Then it gets sanded smoother, and then it gets sanded, and then it gets sanded again, and then it gets resanded and finished and sanded and finished. And so there's about 10 minutes from here to here, 10 minutes from here to here, and about 4 hours from here to here.
Wow.
So the last surface is all done by hand. This is all machined,
Okay.
and then the last bit. And that's coming, the sort of furniture making obsession, the sleepless nights are all in the last section. But
So how do you do you have different edges for your drums, or is this kind of like a typical edge on all your drums?
all our drums have a handmade bearing edge,
Okay.
or a hand-done bearing edge. We can adjust that depending on where the kit's going to go. If it's going to live just in the studio, we'll do a slightly broader edge, and that'll dampen down some of the resonant tail.
Okay.
If it's going to be only a live kit, then we'll tighten that up, and it'll ring a little bit more, get a little more projection. And so, but it's nuanced. Most of the influence, the different tones and sort of performance is done in the species selection.
Okay.
Everything subsequent to that is nuanced tweaks.
So like we mentioned earlier, you're out there in the real world playing these drums and using them. How broad are they sounding? How easy is it to get them to work out there in the real world?
Man, it's been, like I said, coming from vintage drums, it's like night and day. The way he makes the shells, the fact that they are a little undersized, the head, like tuning them is super easy. I never have tension rods backing out. They're shockingly durable. I mean, I'm sure you've had situations where either a stagehand or somebody has dropped a drum or tried to be a hero or whatever, and I've had that happen and pulled the hoops off, expecting the worst, and they were just like, it was perfect. It was, threw the heads back on, finished the tour, and the biggest thing for me, I feel like I've been told more than ever in my playing career, is front of house guys coming up and saying, what the heck is that? Yeah, what is that kick drum? Or what is that, a 22? Oh no, it's a 20. It's just a little guy, and the toms sound huge. There's no need for gaff tape, moon gels, all this stuff. It's nice to be able to pick a species or an edge configuration and it do what you want, and what you're hearing from on top of the drums is what you want to hear, instead of being told later, oh no, it sounded good, and you're back there playing going like, this is terrible, I hate this. So it's nice across the board. It's like, I'm happy here, front of house is happy, which makes me even happier.
Sure, it makes everybody happy.
Yeah, everybody that's at the show or whatever is having a good time, and they're not getting blasted by a terrible, horrible drum sound, and it's
Very
been
cool.
fantastic.
We had a intention from the beginning, or a way of looking at these as tools for whoever's using them.
Sure.
Instead of these are just instruments, these are just mine. I'm making something that someone's going to use. So when we get those responses from the front of house guys, it's like, sound check took 3 minutes. We didn't have to do anything. It's just flat across the board.
Yep.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
It's really nice.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
flattering.
Now I read that each drum in each drum kit is made from a single tree.
Yes, sir.
How do you go about that? And then can you make, how many drum
I have a
kits can one
series of
tree?
loincloths that I wear, and I fell the tree. So when someone orders a kit, so you have one mahogany tree and you have another mahogany tree. Those aren't going to be exactly the same.
Right.
Whether it's climate or soil or how it grew, it's going to be color different. One might be slightly harder than the other. It was important to me that whatever specific quirk a tree had, that be consistent throughout the whole kit.
Sure.
Not only structurally and sonically, but also aesthetically. I have the furniture making part of me pushes the aesthetic thing to a point of obsession. Like, that's just as important. Of course, it's got to perform, but it should really look as good as it
Well, and you can tell they're
plays.
gorgeous. Yeah.
So when you look at a whole kit, it shouldn't be, well, why does the rack tom not match the floor tom, not match the kick drum? So that's why when I get a full kit order, I'll go buy the biggest plank of wood, and then I can pick and choose, and I know it all came from the same source.
I got you. Okay.
The snares are easy. That's a smaller piece of wood. But a kit, I have to get something huge. So
Very cool. All right, let's get into a little bit of the technical side of these drums. We're talking about the species of wood and how different the staved version of the species is compared to the traditional plywood part of building a drum. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I used to have a guitar maker, acoustic guitar maker, renting space for me, and I was doing all his milling for his tops and backs and sides. And we used to have these conversations about why this would and why this would. And then when I started building drums, I was recalling those conversations and figuring why wouldn't that all apply? This is just a different shaped solid wood instrument. And really, it's me trying not to mess up Mother Nature. I mean, it sounds a little spiritual, but all the work's been done. I just need to sort of be a conduit for it. So again, with this construction, it really facilitates a broadening of that range, and each nuance can be kind of celebrated in its niche. And then when you're in that spot, the way these are made, you get more of whatever that thing does. That's a mahogany shell. It does these things that are great, that are specific to mahogany. A plywood mahogany shell will do some of that, but it's like a constricted, kind of diluted version, whereas this just gets to, you know, spread its, I'm not going to say spread its wings.
You did.
Pull some Nickelback references. Can we get an eagle that lands on my arm?
So how many species of wood do you work with in your company? I mean, is it endless, or is it, do you have like just a certain amount and you just kind of stick within that?
Well, I don't like to publicize ones that I know I can't get another batch of it. There are some woods that don't like to glue. There are resins and stuff that make it hard to adhere to each other. So, you know, the species that I have at Sweetwater are the ones that I know I can consistently get really good quality material.
This snare drum we have here is the cherry snare, correct?
This is cherry, yeah. Which is it's kind of our company ambassador. You know, on this scale of 1 to 11, this is a 6. This is the most versatile. It can get up into some of what the really hard woods do. It can reach down into what some of the soft woods do. Not quite as far as those niche ones, but it has a really nice marriage of bark and warmth. It's like a punch and a hug kind of thing.
Wow, good way to describe it. Very nice. I noticed that your lugs are really cool. Now, you designed the lugs on these drums, right?
I designed those, yeah.
And do all your drums come with die-cast hoops, or do you kind of change depending on the wood you're using?
There are certain species in my mind, which often differs from your mind, an actual player, is they respond well to a certain setup, a certain head and a certain hoop. So that's how I send them out if no one tells me to do it differently.
I got you.
They also photograph really well with the die-cast. It's a sexier shot. So, and I do all the photography. So,
and the trick throw-offs and strainers you have on here are really cool.
They're great, and the company is wonderful to work for. Really nice guy and very prompt, and
very good.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. It's killer instruments. I can't wait to get my hands on them and really play. I'm going to do a video for everybody out there. I'll be doing a video with all the snare drums we have in stock here at Sweetwater, and I'm sure over time there'll be more options and more offerings, and I just really appreciate you guys coming out and talking with me a little bit, and to our followers out there in internet land, and nice to meet you all, and have a great time here at Sweetwater.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
I hope you enjoyed this look at Sugar Percussion's instruments. They're great sounding drums. Thanks to Nick DiVirgilio, and thank you for joining us for the Sweetwater Minute. I'm Mitch Gallagher.